You're listening to the Wordslinger Podcast, episode 61, Brand Mapping with Jason Arcemont. Ain't no mountain high
Writing a
enough.
book. It can be the best way to build or grow your business, or to simply tell the story that you wish to tell. Learn how to write your book in 30 days or less. Pick up 30-day offer today from Amazon, Apple iBooks, or other online retailers.
It's the Wordslinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented Pants Optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger. Happy New Year. I don't know when you're listening to this exactly, but I mean, it's 2016 here, and I'm kind of glad of it. I mean, I made it. I made it to 2016. Remarkable. So, now that we're into a whole new year, I mean, you know, everybody does this every year. Everyone, they kick off the whole new year, new me attitude. And that's great. I mean, you know, gym memberships go up. People start, you know, getting out and doing more things. The economy actually kind of booms around this time of year. And it's also a good time of year to kind of reflect on the past and, you know, think about what we've done to get to where we are and make plans for the future. I guess it's an artificial marker of sorts, but it's kind of traditional that we do that. It's kind of a shame, really. I mean, if you spend that time during the year sort of reassessing and replanning and getting a start on something, I mean, you could start anytime, you know, whatever. That's life, right? I don't mind the whole new year, new you kind of thing. I'm kind of on board with it. I'm looking at my own goals now, and there are some things ahead. There are some changes in the works for me. Definitely. I mean, you've heard all about the whole RV thing. I mean, that's happening. We just picked up literally yesterday. I drove to Austin. I got a small camper, not the one we're going to live in full time, but a small one that is. Well, in terms of Star Trek, it's kind of our roundabout. Not roundabout. It's our runabout. How embarrassing. It's our runabout. It's the thing that we're going to, you know, branch out from this apartment we're renting. We're going to get out and experience some parks and campsites and, you know, spend the next year doing that while we're also continuing to downsize. And, you know, we've got there are some things we have to figure out, you know, financially. There's a few hitches here and there that we have to work out, just like anybody. So, you know, we're getting so much closer, though. And I like the fact that we're making progress. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing proposition. I like that. So, anyway, more changes coming. You know, I've got some more books in the works. One in particular, I think, I've got a nonfiction book that sort of snuck up on me, and really thanks to the holidays, because I got a few gifts, and I started, I did a couple of podcasts. I was recently on Joanna Penn's Creative Pen podcast, which if you haven't heard, you should definitely check that out. I was interviewed by Simon Whistler. Anyway, these things, I'm talking about the sort of RV lifestyle and downsizing, and because of that, I've got an idea for a book. So I started kind of working on something. We'll see how it works out. I think it'll be good. I think you'll like it. So when it's there, you know, I don't do a ton of nonfiction books these days, but I do have some ideas for a few things you might be interested in. So, especially if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're an author, a lot of my stuff is geared towards authors, but I think this one will have sort of a universal flavor. We'll see. That sort of thing's going on. New year ahead, lots of cool stuff. Not sure. There's a lot of things I'm planning to do podcasting wise. We'll see what happens. If, by the way, if by any chance you are a podcaster yourself, or you have a radio show or a television show or a blog or something along those lines, I'm actively looking for guest spots. I want to go start kind of pushing my work a little more, talking to, you know, reaching a broader audience, just kind of getting out there. And I've got a lot of topics I can talk about. So hook me up, man. Give me a call. You can visit me at kevintomlinson.com and hit the contact button, and I'll be happy to chat with you about anything you might need. So there you go. I got a lot of that kind of stuff kind of lined up already, but it'll be good to make some more contacts. So enough about me. Let's move on to our guest today. We're talking to Jason Arcemont, who, I'll do the whole introduction when we come in. He's written a couple of books. One of them is called The Brand Map, which I actually have and have now read. It's very good. I like it. It's very small, but it's a very good guide for sort of restructuring or rethinking your brand. The other book is Your Spot on the Mountain, which is, if you were listening at the beginning of the show, that's the tie-in to me singing Ain't No Mountain High Enough. So sorry about that. So anyway, you can pick those two up. You can click on the show notes if you want to give me a little, let's say, affiliate love. You can click on the links in the show notes and buy those books. Otherwise, you can just go on Amazon and find them. They are available in print, but not ebook, which I need to work with Jason on that. We'll get him some ebook stuff going. So anyway, hope you like this interview. I did. Happy New Year to you. Stick around after the interview. We'll do the wrap up. Take care of yourselves. Until then, enjoy this interview with Jason Arcemont. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. And today I'm sitting with Jason Arcemont. Did I get that right, Jason? Because I am terrible at butchering names.
That was good.
Right. We discussed that right before the show, and I knew I'd screw it up anyway. But Jason Arcemont, who is a goal crusher, he's a speaker, author, trainer, and radio show host. He's also an author. He's got 2 books out right now, The Brand Map, which is something I'm keen to talk about, and also Your Spot on the Mountain, also something we should talk about, Jason, because as you were telling me before the show, it's aimed at entrepreneurs who kind of, they focus on the distant stuff and miss sort of the stuff in between, right? Did I get that right? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little about those. I mean, well, you got a lot going on. You're like me. You got a ton of stuff going on. So you are clearly an entrepreneur yourself. So how do you manage that lifestyle?
Oh man, it's crazy. I love it though. It's kind of, being that ADD guy, it's good for me to have things to jump onto. But yeah, we started about 8 years ago building a marketing firm here in Houston, Texas. And from there, it grew into, starting a trade show exhibit company, funding a print shop, our own print company. We started up an HR outsourcing group and do staffing, recruiting, payroll processing. And then, here recently we started our own corporate training group. And so now with, just under 100 employees, we're all over the place and covering a lot of bases and doing a lot of good stuff to help small to mid-sized companies, continue to grow and run more efficiently.
Always good goals.
Yeah, well, yeah. I grew up in
that.
a family of entrepreneurs, so it's kind of a passion for me to want to help entrepreneurs and small and mid-sized companies. And so, I didn't really plan all this, but I've kind of just followed my passion and my heart, and it's led me to some really good business partners. And at the end of the day, we've got some great companies producing good quality work. It's been cool.
Yeah. So, you said you're in Houston, and I'm near Houston. I'm just outside of Houston. It's amazing to me. I went and looked you up on LinkedIn, and we connected, but, we share something like, 50 or 60 contacts in common. I'm blown
Isn't that
away.
crazy?
How is it possible you and I have never met? That's what's a little strange.
Yeah. I know we have a lot of folks in common. That's for sure.
So, okay. So where does it start for helping entrepreneurs? I mean, you're building a business around helping other people build their businesses. That's what it sounds like, right?
Yeah, it's kind of turned into that. What I've done is I've taken all the stuff that I've put into starting my first company, which was Brightbox, which, right out of the box became an Inc. 500 fastest growing company in the United States, as well as almost all of the companies I've built have been able to do that. And I just started seeing like, hey, man, there's kind of a formula here for doing this stuff correctly. And a lot of times we get bogged down in the day-to-day work and kind of what we're trying to deliver that we kind of forget, us entrepreneurs and business owners of, what it really takes to, excel and to turn a profit in a short amount of time. And so, yeah, I just just started building these things out, and one after another. I know my wife's telling me to stop at some point here. She still helps with all of our accounting and keeping up with the books and stuff. So couldn't do it without her for sure. But
exactly.
yeah, it's been a wild ride.
So how do you, that's my wife tries to help me with this stuff, but I think it confuses her because I'm constantly jumping from one thing to another. So it's a little hard to get a beat on what the business actually is sometimes.
Got a similar problem.
So how do you mentioned earlier about finding, you're always finding partners for things. Like, how do you do that? What do you, what's your tip for finding partners to work with or venture with?
Probably the best thing to do is, just when you're networking and when you're talking with people, I'm just an opportunistic kind of person. And when I hear someone sharing a passion or a dream that they've always have always had, I'm just quick to encourage people to go down the path of exploring what would it take to do that. And then what normally ends up happening is they shoot me an email and they start asking questions, and then little by little I'm helping them put their business plan together, or an idea is coming up, and I'm like, well, man, okay, here we go again. Would you like some help? Would you like a partner in this? And then having the marketing firm helps, because then they're backed by a seasoned marketing firm that can get their brand put together correctly, can get their website up, do the marketing, all that kind of stuff. So it lends itself to a great partnership and relationship, most of the time. And, I'm open to it, and I'm excited by business. So I think it's easy for me to fall into doing more business with more people.
What are some signs of a good partner?
I think signs of a good partner, really, it comes down to both partners understanding their place.
Yeah.
If I'm just going to be somebody putting some money in your company, then I need to respect you enough and have enough, trust in your vision and what you're doing to stay out of the way. Right. And I think so many times I'll see, two designers will get together and start a marketing firm or, a design firm. And I'm always like, oh, there's going to be trouble, man. Because, somebody's got to cover the business side. Somebody's got to cover sales. Somebody's got to cover design. Somebody's got to cover accounting and the finances. And so I look for people that, bring attributes that maybe I don't have or I'm not all that good at. And because I'm very open about what I'm good at and what I'm not. And, somebody's got a skill set that I don't have, and we get along well, and we can do a really good, partnership agreement, which I've learned that the hard way. But, just be very clear up front. What is it going to look like when things get ugly? Because sometimes they do, and you need to be prepared for those.
So what are some of those skills that you are good at? I'm going to follow up with, what are the skills you're not good at?
So the skills I'm good at are talking, I love the sales. I like prospecting. I like putting ideas and plans together. And I put most of that time into my radio show, into the marketing firm, and now our corporate training / business consulting business that we have. Right. And so that leaves very little amount of time for me to get involved with my other partners. So they kind of have the freedom and flexibility to do what they want. And I trust them. We meet once a month. We outline that. But, my skill set is in sales, moving quickly when I see opportunity, capitalize on it, and pulling the trigger for sure.
Yeah, that's I used to think everybody had that skill set until I started talking to more people. It's a little more rare than you think, and people who have that are you have a flexibility, I think, that helps you get ahead. So tell me a little about, you've got these two books, and they're both focused. The first one seems more focused on entrepreneurs, and the second maybe is on more about marketing, I guess. Yeah. Both aimed at the same audience, I'm thinking, right? But so tell us about Your Spot on the Mountain.
Yeah, Your Spot on the Mountain was it was an interesting book. I didn't intend to write it, but the October before last, October 2014, I actually took a month off of my life, and in an effort to help raise awareness and money to fight against child sex trafficking, I decided I'd do a little PR stunt and run across the entire state of Texas. Wow.
Wait. Which direction?
I went from El Paso to Orange.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's quite a run.
30 miles a day, every day for 30 days straight.
Yeah.
And in doing that, the year leading up to that run was a lot of training, as you can imagine, upwards of 100 miles a week just in training alone.
Right.
And I, just spent a lot of time running and being by myself and kind of, meditating and contemplating on some of these things that I was doing in my own life and how much drive I had just for my business and making money and, having fancy cars and just trying to get the best of the best. And when I looked up, I wasn't really enjoying those things. That wasn't the part of life that I really wanted. And I wanted more of the freedom. I wanted more of the relationships and the interactions. And so, I knew it's not a book that hasn't ever been written before, but it's my story of it.
Right.
About, just getting back to the basics, understanding, where your spot on the mountain is. And that, if you want to go for the top, that's great, go for it. But understand that the top of the mountain is extremely lonely. It's cold, it's icy, there's not a lot of room to run around and play. The air is thin, it's hard to breathe. Right. And that's great for some people. But, for me, I personally want to be a little bit farther down on that mountain where there's a little bit more grass, there's community, there's friends, there's rich oxygen and air, you can breathe well. And there's still plenty of abundance financially.
Right.
And, so I think it's important for people to stop who are on a quest for something, but they haven't quite defined it. And so I hope that this book helps people to do that. Take the time to stop, reflect, clearly define what your goals are, or at least your dreams are, so that you can convert those into a goal, and then you can convert that into reality.
So what are some ways to do that? Like, how would you start just assessing what your goals should be or what your dream is? Because I always thought that was easy too, and it turns out that's difficult. It's difficult.
It's tough,
for me.
Isn't it? Yeah, I know. Especially those of us who have a lot of different dreams.
Exactly. How do you pick one?
Yeah, for me, what I decided to do was I started with my lifestyle. Because I'm so active and I have so many different things that I have interest in and different opportunities that I could take advantage of, I really had to stop and say, what kind of life do I want to lead?
Right.
How much time do I want with my wife, with my family, with my kids, for myself? How often do I want to go to work? You'd be surprised. A lot of business owners who are working 14, 15 hours a day, they don't even want to be doing that. Well, then why did you build a company that supports that structure and that lifestyle? Right. So I think instead, if we don't just go into business and say, hey, let's just build a business, we're going to put our head down, we're going to make it work. I think we need to have a goal, the end result of what we're trying to do. And it can't just be this fantasy we're going to sell off one day and make millions of dollars, because that doesn't happen for most of us.
Right.
So I think for me, it's starting with your lifestyle. How do you want to live your life in 6 months? Okay, now before we start this company or before we rebrand or we do some marketing for this company, let's make sure we're building it the way that's going to support the lifestyle that we want. And so it's just being very clear and defined with how you want to live, and then working backwards to make sure that the things you're doing in life are meeting that goal.
Right. And that's an interesting approach too, because a lot of times, you read books and you're like me. I know you're like me. You have probably a bookcase crammed full of books about, success and, how to figure out your goals and, that sort of thing, how to plan your life. But it seems to me that every time I read something like that, they start with, all right, take your dream and now, backwards plan it and and figure out what's your goal in, a year, 3 years, 5 years, et cetera. But just figuring out that dream, I think is tough for a lot of people. So,
well, and but the thing, why I think that is because we've been inundated with schools and counselors to tell us, hey, find a passion and then go make money doing that passion, right? Follow that passion, you're going to be successful. Well, man, that's not really true. I mean, you can be doing something you're extremely passionate about, but if you're only making $300 a week, man, you're not going to be happy. I'm sorry, but it's just not going to work. So that's why I like to start with my lifestyle and my family and the quality of life that I want to lead. What's quality for me anyways, right? It's different for everyone.
Right.
And then building a company around that. And that may mean that you have to work, 7 days a week at first, but have a plan for how you get to 3 days a week. Because I can tell you, even if that job or that path is picking up trash, if you only have to do it 3 days a week for 6 hours a day and it's supporting the lifestyle that you want, you're going to be happy,
Yeah.
So, that's why I start with that. And that's why I encourage people, when you read this book to follow the steps, because I really take you through kind of a step-by-step guide on how to turn that dream into a reality. And sometimes it looks a lot different than you think, but at the end of the day, you're living a life that's richer and fuller, and it's clearly defined.
I love that entire approach.
Yeah.
So one of your titles is trainer. Is that what do you train people directly, or how does that work? What's the aspect there? Is it like coaching, or is it just
kind of professional coaching? So I don't do as much one-on-one anymore, just because of the amount of time that I don't have. I've got a couple folks that they pay a premium to have that dedicated time. But most of the training I do nowadays is for companies. So we'll go in, meet with their upper level, their C-level, their management team, and figure out a lot of what we're talking about here. I just met with an aviation broker in San Antonio yesterday. He originally thought that he wanted to grow his company because he thought that was just the natural approach. He's been running for 20 years and they're kind of flatlining. Well, it comes to find out after meeting with him, that's not really even what he wants. That's not the lifestyle that he wants. Right. And maybe what he needs to do is, well, let's pull back a little bit. Let's get rid of some of this overhead. Take a look at these margins and what happens when we start, we cut overhead by, 10%. We're able to maintain the top 80% of our revenue in our business. Man, all of a sudden margins, he's making more money than he was before with less headache. Yeah. And, that doesn't apply to everybody, but that's kind of the coaching and training I like to do. That's where my real passion is, helping people see through the fog a little bit clearer,
Yeah. So is that part of your mountain? Is that your goal, is to help other entrepreneurs?
Yeah, for me,
I know it is, and you said it was earlier. I guess I'm trying to get a beat on that idea of, is that the thing that motivates and drives you, or is there something else you're working toward?
Yeah, I've been blessed to do a lot of different things and lay my head down on my pillow at the end of the night and feel good about what I'm doing. And what I've found excites me the most, it makes me feel the best, is when I know that I'm making a difference in someone's lives through their company. Because the ripple effect of that is just unbelievable. It's not just the business owner or the marketing person whose life is changing, or their goals and their dreams are becoming reality, but their employees and their family. I mean, for whatever reason, for me, that's the end all be all. I just when I know I'm able to help a company grow or get to where it needs to be or maximize ROI on revenue, I go to sleep at night feeling really good. So that's kind of my it's definitely how I would describe my passion for sure.
Great. Okay, so how, all of this takes time, and you've got a million things going. So how do you plan and manage your time? Like, what tools do you use, or what process do you use?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I just I finished a TED Talk a few weeks ago. It was one of those bucket lists in life. Yes. I was really
also
excited to do that. Yeah. Oh man, it's a blast. It's more nerve-wracking than you might think.
I think it's pretty nerve-wracking.
I do speaking gigs all the time, but for some reason, because it had the TED name on there, I was so wound up for that thing. But I kind of talked through that talk about how each of us are given 1,440 minutes every day to make the most of.
Yeah.
And what are we going to do with those minutes? And how on average we spend hours a day watching TV alone.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, everyone says that they don't know how to get it done. There's not enough hours. There's not enough time in the day. But I guarantee if you stop and look at your schedule, you're not doing as much as you could. Mm-hmm. And a big thing for me was when I was running and doing all the training leading up to those marathons and realizing that, I was spending several hours a day just running. And I didn't have a choice. I had to maintain the companies and maintain my other responsibilities and find times with my family and friends. And so I'd get up at 4:00 in the morning, or I wouldn't go to bed till, midnight. Mm-hmm. So there's always extra time. And probably the best example of that, I think I posted this on Facebook. I got a couple of my buddies got upset, but it was a Sunday and I'm working and I got the football game on. And right at that time, I had a friend of mine shoot me an email, and he's asking me kind of the same thing. Jason, man, what do I do for like time management? I feel like I just can't get my company where it needs to go. Like there's just not enough hours in a day. And so I chat him back and I said, oh man, hey, are you watching the game? He's like, yeah, man, Texans are up, or whatever. And I'm like, all right, step one, turn the game off and go work. I think so many times we're inundated with these perceived privileges of after 5 o'clock, or the weekends are dedicated for this. Well, man, if you're behind and you need to get caught up and you need to get something off the ground, you need to get a project or a company, those are privileges. Those are not necessities, and you do not deserve or are entitled to those times. So, get off the tube, stop watching football, and let's focus on your business. And so we ended up doing a couple-hour little strategy session there on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I think there's hidden time all over the place. I don't have a particular calendar or any format that I follow. I just get up every day wanting to tackle as much as I can.
Yeah. What's a typical day look like?
Oh, typically getting up at 5. I'm still a pretty avid runner and gym rat, so I like to get my exercise in. A couple days a week, I'll trade off with the wife and take the kids to school.
Yeah.
And then we've got 3 different offices here in Houston. So between checking in with those offices, meeting with clients, working on a book, working on a marketing campaign for our own efforts, getting to the iHeart studio to do a recording for a radio show, it's busy. It's all over the place, but I love it. I like that pace. I like that tempo. It keeps me on my toes. It keeps the people around me on their toes. There's an energy that's about it. You just can't. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
So tell me about the radio show.
The radio show is on the 950 here in Houston, which is Houston's kind of original talk radio.
Yep.
So that's how they describe it.
I used to be on 950 when, I wasn't personally. I produced a show that was on 950.
Oh, okay.
Back.
Yeah. So I was, they have primarily a lot of political angled shows, and talking with Rob Reese over there and Eddie Martini, we kind of came to the conclusion that, hey, this would be a good platform to talk about business.
Right.
And, I really feel that people want to hear more about business, especially when it's relevant and it's helpful and there's tips. And I bring in guests each week. I think we've got Oliver Luck. I don't know if you're familiar with Oliver Luck. He's a former Oiler football player. He was the one responsible for bringing the Dynamos to Houston. He's now with the NCAA as a regulatory officer. I'll have Alan West is coming on in a few weeks. So I try to bring some pretty impactful people that can talk about leadership, team building, turning a company around. Last week we had a lady with a tobacco shop, the Briar Shop here in Houston, who's a third generation female tobaccoist, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting all around.
Yeah, we talk a little bit about the family dynamics. If you got a family-owned business, you don't just jump into it. So she gave us some tips and some ideas on things to look for, how to structure those types of relationships. So it's a business show, and we're geared at again, just that passion of mine of wanting to help business owners.
Yeah.
So it's been really good so far.
Sounds like we have similar audiences.
Yeah, probably.
So
we need to tune our audiences into each other for sure.
Yeah, we need to get these guys together. And it's weird, by the way, to hear you mention things like the Briar Shop or whatever, because I don't talk to a lot of people who are local to me. So like local landmarks. I've actually been in the Briar Shop. So what about like the exhibits and everything? I mean, how's that factor into your business?
So whenever we started the marketing firm, we were building brands and doing designs, and clients started asking us, hey, can you, design our trade show booth? And it's like, well, we'll give it a shot. I had spent a little time in an exhibit company whenever I was in high school, manufacturing booths and kind of the sweat labor guy. So I knew about the industry. And as I started doing the designs, the clients started asking us to build the booths. And before I knew it, we were doing a bunch of revenue outsourcing to a local exhibit company. So at the end of that year, I kind of added it all up and said, well, you know what? We either need to do an acquisition or we need to start our own company. And, fortunately, the gentleman that I was outsourcing all the business with has become a great business partner of mine, Todd Nall, allowed me to buy into his company and leave him on as president. And he does the day-to-day operations. And, now our marketing clients can get good exhibit work, and our exhibit clients who typically need good marketing and video production and trade show handouts. So it's been a win-win relationship. We've been able to double up revenue extremely quick with that company.
So do all of your businesses sort of click together? Like, are they one big puzzle piece working? Do you like sort of share resources?
Yeah, we keep them as separate entities, and I want them to run individually because for each company that I've brought on, I've also brought on a partner.
Okay.
So that partner can do the day-to-day stuff and can be the head and the face of that particular brand. And at some point, that partner, is more than likely going to want to have the opportunity to buy their company back.
Yeah.
And so that's been part of the strategy and why I haven't wanted to roll it all up into one company. The print shop Inkbox here in Houston is a great example of that. My business partner, Mick Maynard, who also owns Legacy Fighting Championship, after I think 5 years of owning the company together, it was like, hey man, I think I'm ready to take the reins. And so, it was a great opportunity for me to sell off the company back to him. And now he owns the company 100% and, is off and running, but we still all gel together.
That's an interesting idea. I never thought about that notion of someone might actually want to buy the business back. In my head, it's always, you form partnerships and there you are. You're there for life.
Yeah, well, a little secret is the best way to sell it sometimes is the person that's running it. So
yeah.
They do a pretty good valuation because they're not going to admit that the company's no good, right? So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it works out. I like that model. You get basically partners for life that way because you've built value and you've helped them build their company, and then you respectfully bow out when they've got the reins, they got the company under control, and you get paid well for it too. So it's all good. It's a win-win all the way around.
So how did you learn all this? How did you figure this stuff out?
Like you said, I've got a shelf full of books.
Yeah.
And I read and wrote and listened to all of the Tony Robbins and the Jay Abrahams and, all the marketing folks out there that I could. And I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. So, kind of P&Ls and, business structures were always something of, conversation at dinner. And so it never really seemed out of the norm or like a real audacious thing to start a company.
Yeah.
I started our first company with $2,000. I didn't have any money when we started Brightbox and put a couple $1,000s in the account. We were in business and, we ended up doing $1 million that year. And so I think maybe that initial success in trying to do business right led to a little bit more confidence than I should have had, but it's been leveraging up and doing really well. So I think just not being afraid, I have started companies that have failed and didn't do so well. But just get back on the horse and try it again and learn your lessons. And, man, as a result, we've been really blessed for it.
Yeah. So, okay. So the businesses that failed, like what lessons did you learn from that?
Oh, let's see. I tried a retail shop one time. We sold candles and home furnishings. And I just didn't have a clue what I was doing. I thought it looked really easy, but like when you got to figure, okay, we're going to have this plate, we're going to sell a plate. Well, how many of those plates do you need? Well, apparently you needed a lot more of that stuff than I allocated for because within a few months, the store was empty. I didn't mark stuff up well enough. I didn't have a mentor to take me through it. And so that's probably the biggest thing is now before I start a company, which is part of the reason why I bring a partner in, is I find an absolute expert in that space. And that hopefully that expert either becomes my business partner or that expert, can just kind of mentor me and make sure that I'm not making any kind of, fatal mistakes.
Yeah.
But, trying to cowboy it by yourself without too much research is probably not a good idea.
Probably not.
And I did a few of those and learned the hard way.
So how do you find these mentors?
I'm just open to relationships. Everywhere I go, I make it known that I'm looking for more opportunity, that whether it's a little or a lot at that time, being self-employed, it always fluctuates, but I let people know that I'm liquid and I've got money and capital for investment and I'm looking for partners. And doing that really, over the course of the first year or so that I was in business, I get emails and introductions and lunches all the time now just to meet folks and hear their ideas. And also I think being a marketing company helps, right? Because almost, every day I'm going and meeting with new companies that need marketing, and sometimes there's, opportunity there I'll build the website and do some marketing and take a little equity.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, that sort of networking to me is always so difficult. Not difficult. I mean, it's just time consuming. And it's one more of those things you got to manage, but how do you balance all that? Cause I feel like I probably spend, half my time networking and the other half, just trying to keep the business rolling. And then, that doesn't leave much for, much time or energy for anything else. So,
yeah. Well, I think it's interesting when you start telling people that you have money to invest in companies. Your phone starts ringing fairly quick.
Okay, yeah. So the secret is have money, is what you're saying.
Well, at least telling people you do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because at first I didn't have much to help out or to invest, but I try to network very efficiently, and for me, what that means is when I'm going to a networking event or a fundraiser or a place where there's a group of people, I'm very clear before I walk in there what it is I'm wanting to convey.
Yeah.
That is, I'm looking for partners. Every single person I bump into is going to know that guy over there is looking for business partners. If I'm looking for funding or if I'm looking to fund something, I just make sure that I know what my purpose is going into all of those events. And sometimes it's not a networking, quote unquote event.
Right.
Fundraisers, workshops, a lobby. Sometimes in clients' lobbies, there'll be people sitting there, and I'm quick to go say hi and spark up a conversation and see where they're at and see if they need help or how I can help them or they can help me.
Some of my best networking has been done in lobbies, usually at events.
Yeah.
I think next year I'm actually planning to not pay to go to the Austin Film Festival because I actually did all my networking in the lobby of the hotel. So at what point I could save a few $100,
Just post up at the bar with a drink and be good to go.
Yeah, man, I could just start a bar tab and I'd still spend less buying everybody drinks that weekend than I would.
Yeah.
So that was my big. I don't know why I threw that in. I'm sorry. So
that's good.
Talking about marketing, I mean, what are some ways? I mean, you help other people with their marketing, so you've probably got sort of a marketing strategy that you follow. What are some ways people can market their businesses a little better?
Yeah, I guess probably to start with, it's easier to identify the biggest misconception.
Yeah.
And that biggest misconception is that there is a magic thing that you can do that's going to turn your company around or start generating leads. It used to be, maybe 10 years ago, maybe even a little bit more than that you needed to hit a consumer on the head with your brand or with your message 3 to 4 times before they would make a decision. That has changed so dramatically now, and that I think the latest one I heard was from the Tony Robbins team was saying that in today's digital economy and digital world, we're up to 16 times that you have to reach out to a consumer or a potential consumer before they make a decision. 16 times. So, when the company or the client comes to me and says, hey, we want to start doing a monthly e-blast. Well, okay. Well, what else are you doing? And the strategy that I've seen work is understanding first who your audience is, putting a series of messages to that audience that is relevant, and then blasting it out on every single possible medium that you can, from social media to e-blasts to direct mailers to a consistent website to having YouTube videos to doing a radio show to whatever you can do. But you have to be extremely active in today's market in order to effectively get in front of somebody. And that activity has to be extremely, even probably more importantly, it has to be consistent. Because if you do it for a month or two and you quit, you've lost all that momentum that you're going to have to regain again.
Right.
And so many times, it's like the cobbler with no shoes. I see this roller coaster in our own company because we get busy implementing campaigns for clients. But when we have the time to really put the pedal down on our own company, I see it. It's within weeks. I can see activity start pick up. Not necessarily revenue, not necessarily full on leads, but within weeks of upping the activity level, I can start seeing results. And within months, those are turning into meetings, into proposals, and potential business. So it's the secret's activity. It's really being active and giving value to the consumer rather than just giving a pitch.
Yeah, I do marketing and consulting myself, so that, this is the same speech I give to my clients, but it's difficult. And also, you mentioned this yourself. I mean, the cobbler's kids scenario, the difficulty for guys like me and guys like you, we are really good at helping other people figure out what they need to do, not so great at implementing those strategies ourselves.
It's kind of one of those things. It's like, well, in an ideal world, I'd have enough money and I'd have enough manpower,
right?
And this is what would happen. And it takes certain level of commitment, and at the end of the day, it's not easy. And I think clients, even the ones who spend a lot of money with us, they tend to keep looking for some magic thing that I'm going to say, or some easy way to, make the phone ring. And, it's just not a reality, especially not nowadays. I know 15 years ago when I first got into business, I remember doing some direct mail campaigns or launching a video, and nobody else was doing that, or at least there wasn't as much noise out there, And so you could do a one-off campaign and you could see a good response. Man, I just haven't heard those success stories in probably the past 8 to 10 years.
Right.
What it comes down to is effectively conveying a message that's relevant and of interest to the consumer, and doing that on a consistent basis over and over and over, so that you become first of mind. And that's really been the magic recipe for us with the clients that participate, that follow the advice. But that advice isn't, and that strategy isn't cheap, and it's extremely time intensive, and it's not all that cheap.
Yeah, the difficulty with a lot of my own clients, I mean, I will tell people, you need to have someone who's a dedicated resource for, for example, social media. And I think that's really important. But the problem is, that there's not enough immediate return value, I guess, not enough ROI right up front. And, it's kind of hard to justify paying someone a salary to sit and, monitor Twitter and Facebook. So
right.
What do you do in those scenarios?
Yeah, that, or I'll meet with the the client that is doing all of those things, but they're not doing it well, and their brand isn't set up properly.
Right.
They haven't identified who they're communicating very well. And, that's probably even a better potential client for us, because we consider ourselves to be a brand marketing firm. So we do all of those other things. We build websites and graphic design and content writing and, all the implementation with social media, SEO. But what we really do that for is for building powerful brands.
Yeah.
And that's really where this latest book that I've launched has come from. It's, when I first started out in the industry and doing brand development, it was kind of like, the agency, you go behind the magic curtain, and then we come out and it's like a take it or leave it. Here's your brand, right?
Right.
And, I was 27 years old whenever I started my marketing firm. So I needed something to kind of validate and really just be a little bit more transparent with the strategy. And so I created this mapping process of collecting data from the client, collecting data from market research, and really just a visual process to how to translate that kind of known data down into some key elements of your messaging, visuals, and then the tactics that you would need to use. And that map has just served Brightbox, our branding firm, extremely well. We've built hundreds of brands now off of that map. I've presented that map at University of Houston, Rice, here in Houston, some landmarks for you there. You'll know those.
That's right. Yeah, they just blew right by me.
So we've had a lot of success with that map. And so finally I was just like, I've never been a big fan of holding things in. I always get questions about why I'm so open with my strategies, but I decided to put it into a book and offer this map out there for people to absorb it and to try implementing it. You can either use it for building a brand or validating an existing brand.
Right,
it's a really good guide to take you on a journey to make sure that your brand's properly positioned before you do all that other activity of marketing. I always kind of consider it, marketing's like having a 5-gallon bucket, and the marketing and the traffic that you're trying to generate to your brand is water that you're pouring into the bucket. Yeah. But if the bucket is your brand and it's ugly and it doesn't effectively convey who you are and doesn't speak to your audience, then your bucket's full of holes. So it doesn't matter how much money you spend or how much water you pour into that bucket, you're not going to retain any of it. And so we need to plug up the bucket. We need to get you a solid one that has a foundation to it that we call a brand. And then once you have that solid bucket, you can pour as much water in it as you want.
So why no Kindle version, man? I'm looking at Amazon.
Yeah, I know. I need to do that.
If only you knew somebody who helped people with publishing in books.
I know.
You might be able. I don't know. You can ask around. Maybe you can find a mentor for that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't. Man, just one of those things. Those cobbler things. Again, I need to do that, and I need to record it.
Yes.
I need to do that too. Get an audio version because I'm big on audio.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah.
I mean, I've got my Audible download. I'm always doing those. So
It's tougher than you think, though, man. I'm just going to warn you right now. I've been trying to
well,
record 30-day author for like the past 2 months.
can't imagine. I mean, I do that radio show and I look at the amount of content we cover and I'm like, man, we hardly got through a page in an hour,
I know,
I
yeah.
can't imagine reading an entire book. I mean, how many hours that's going to take sitting in front of a microphone. So
I've,
I don't,
I have a much greater respect for the people who are doing this after trying it.
yep.
But I'm going to get there. You'll get there too. We'll figure out a way to help you out with that. So what? Speaking of the brand map, I mean, what makes a powerful brand?
I think one that effectively conveys your promise to your specifically allocated audience.
Yeah.
Right. I think you have to be able to, within a few seconds, we live by what we call our 3 W's, which is who you are, what you do, and who you do it for. And I know there's a really important one with the why, but I really put that why into the actual marketing implementation, the messaging portion. I look at your brand as those 3 W's of who you are, what you do, and who you do it for. And if you're not effectively conveying those 3 W's within the first few seconds of somebody interacting with your brand, you're missing the mark and you're missing the opportunity to capitalize on the money that you've spent to get that brand in front of that person.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's what a powerful brand does. A commercial, you see them all the time, ads, billboards, they're beautiful, they're funny, and they still leave you scratching your head at the end of them going, who was that? And is this really for me? Can I afford this product? Are they mirroring the cost of the product to the audience? Sometimes, it's a low cost thing, but it looks really expensive, or it's a high cost thing, but it looks really, really cheap. It's just mirroring all of those elements and those attributes of the brand into effective 3 W's and, being able to convey that to your target audience side. To me, that's a powerful brand when you can do that effectively.
Yeah. Yeah, everything you just said jives with what I've always thought, so that's good. At least I know I'm not a complete imbecile. So how do you identify that audience, though? That seems tricky.
Yeah, it's funny. I just did a little video on that because it's true. So many times I'll ask clients, all right, well, tell me about your audience. And like, oh, we're going after, we go after men.
Everyone.
Yeah, or everyone. Yeah, or we go after, they're in the oil and gas business. Oh, we go after production companies. Okay.
Right.
Well, really, you don't.
Right.
Because to have a clear idea of who your audience is means you need to know them intimately.
Right.
And not in a a bedroom relationship, but you need to know, we're talking to women that are between the age of 23 and 28. Her name is Becky. She plays volleyball on the weekend. And have an idea of what this person's life is like so that you can now start conveying very specific things to Becky, Becky types, that would be relevant to their lives. Right. And I think that's where a lot of people miss when it's like who our target audience is. It has to be specific. You have to be detailed. Otherwise, it's too vague, and people don't care nowadays because they're being inundated with data all day long.
Yeah.
Why are they going to stop? Why are they going to look at it?
Right. Yeah. That whole brand persona thing is something that I've helped clients with, but I struggle doing it myself. And actually, I really don't always feel comfortable helping clients with it because it's hard to kind of home in on, the specific details of that client. I mean, of that customer. So,
yeah, they get greedy, don't they?
Yeah,
they're like, well, we want everybody. And
exactly.
It's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, maybe everybody will come, but we have to spend our marketing dollars wisely. So
Right.
let's go after a niche, a small group. I mean, I'm sure, you and the listeners are just like us. I get inundated with emails for entrepreneurs and direct mail pieces and, but if they would speak to me as an entrepreneur, as a father, as a husband, as an endurance runner, I know it's a much smaller and more focused and niche group. But man, if I got that e-blast that came over specifically for my personality type, now it's something I might click on and actually engage in. But I just don't have time with all the other stuff that's coming to engage in every single entrepreneurial, minded email I get, So you got to be specific, especially if you don't have much money to work with, which most of my clients don't. So
yeah, exactly. Mine either, buddy.
We got to use that money wisely,
So, that brings up an interesting point because that's that idea that we as individuals can actually belong to more than just one audience. So you can actually reach maybe your target audience sort of sideways, come at them from a different direction. Because like you said, you're a father, you're a husband, there are a lot of identifiers attached to you.
Right.
So that idea of, if I want to reach you as an entrepreneur, I may not go after you directly as an entrepreneur. I may have to,
Right.
find how I can link it to your personal life somehow.
Yeah, and never forget the power of referrals.
Yeah.
Right? If you can properly identify somebody in that market and they have a connection with you and they decide to engage and they have a great transaction, they're going to refer other like-minded entrepreneurs who may not be the runner and the father, but that circle of people, that circle of petroleum engineer acquisition managers, right?
Right.
If you can do a good job and make that person feel special and make them feel like you gave them the best possible service and experience, that will refer other people. I mean, hands down, I've just never not seen that work. So,
Right.
and I think that's something that clients always get hung up on. Well, we don't want to leave everybody else out. It's like, trust me, you won't. Let's just give an unbelievable experience to 10% of the people that you want to go after. I promise it'll take off like a wildfire.
Yeah. How do you calm the fears of that client that because let's face it, you and I have an education in this sort of thing, whether it's practical or otherwise, but we know that you don't want, it's the Ford quote, you don't want everyone as your customer, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you talk to clients and convince them that they don't want everyone as a customer?
Oh man, yeah. If I was able to truly articulate that, it would be way more successful.
This is a whole other book. We're going to have to work on a whole other book.
It's interesting. I think it comes with being thorough, and it comes with this map really helps to do that, because in the map we show the external market research.
Right.
We show what the competition's doing, the talking points, the selling points, the taglines, how they categorize their products and services. We look at the industry, we identify weaknesses, opportunities, saturations, and we convey or we translate all of that down into a unique market segment. And for a good example was we helped with the rollout of Rio Azul tequila. This was probably almost 10 years ago now. And they came to us originally and they wanted to be the end all be all, the number one tequila company in the market space. And what that meant back then was that, well, you're going to be a margarita tequila. Okay. And, Jose Cuervo's in that space. You've got Patron's in that space. It was a huge, huge market. Right. And they wanted to tackle the number one spot. Well, you know what? With, $100,000 or a couple $100,000 a year in marketing, there's no way we're going to knock down a Goliath like Jose Cuervo.
Right.
So the practical approach that they and us, and I think they did a little study with the University of Houston too, which was really neat. We came to the conclusion that, well, why don't we create a new category of sipping tequilas? Oh. And we can own 100% of this new category rather than trying to compete head to head with this other larger one. And so we rolled out a unique sipping experience, Rio Azul tequila. And we encouraged restaurants and, bars and mixologists to serve this as a sipping tequila, like a scotch or cognac or something like that. And they have done phenomenally well. And they own that particular market of sipping tequilas. It's not, $1 billion, but it's way more than what they would have gotten with the dollars that they had to spend had they tried to go after Jose Cuervo.
Right.
Yeah. So I think sometimes it's that map and that process for how we come up with that, and a very transparency to what we're recommending allows us to have the client at the end of the day say, well, man, I just don't agree with that. It's like, okay, well, let's take a look at the map. Where did we misinterpret the data? Because it looks very clear to us. I had another company, there were a group of Aggies, and our conclusion was that everybody in their space was, either blue or red or like a maroon, and they were maroon as well. And so when it comes to branding, I want to own your name in the mind of the audience, your tagline, your color, textural elements that we use. And so the big thing for us, the next step in this process was establishing their color palette, and we came back with orange. Because it was, I know.
That had to sting.
It was the only color not being used in their market space.
Yeah.
And, when we did a little rendering of like a booth looking down the aisle of a trade show, and with all the other colors of blue and grays and reds and burgundies, this orange popped out. And it was hard to deny. It was hard to argue that type of recommendation. And I think that's the type of clarity that we like to bring to the clients. And, as a result, they put more confidence in it. They put more money into it. They, the campaigns are more successful, and they, they return a greater ROI. So, It's tough though, man. I'm with you. It's not always easy to tell the client that they're wrong. Especially when it's something that, it's their baby and they had this dream of it, appealing to the mass audience. It's like, well, we might get there one day, but unfortunately you don't have the funding, which is for, most of our small clients, that's the case. They just don't have the money to do a national campaign to everybody like Coca-Cola or something like that. It's not realistic.
Right. But then I think some of the most successful campaigns in history started, it's that limitation of resources that makes you kind of pop and stand out, like the way you use that. You're the underdog, and how are you going to use what you got, kind of thing.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Well, we are we're at our time, so I'm just going to go ahead and wrap us up. But I really appreciate you being on the show. I'm still shocked that you and I don't know each other in person yet. We'll have to fix that.
We got to do that.
We'll have some sipping tequila.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being on the show, Jason. And to the audience, I hope you enjoyed this interview. I know I did. I got to go back now. I got to listen to it slower. Because, when you're in the middle of it, you don't get to hear everything. But if you've got any questions, I'm happy to pass them along to Jason for you. So be sure to email me. You can hop on wordslingerpodcast.com, and you'll get the rest of that contact info in the show notes. So visit Jason online at Jason Arcemont. Did I get it right?
That's
Arcemont.
it.
I did it again. Okay, jasonarcemont.com. I'm sorry, man. You can butcher my name in public if you want. jasonarcemont.com. You can visit him also on Twitter at Jason Arcemont, and you'll find links to that and more in the show notes. So thanks again, Jason, for being on, man. We'll have to do this
Kevin.
again.
It was a privilege. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, everybody. And that was Jason Arcemont. And, I really enjoyed that interview because, for one thing, it's kind of nice to talk to somebody who's local. I mean, I talk to people all over the world. This past, 2 weeks, I've talked to people in the UK, in Prague, in Australia. I think someone was in Tokyo. So a lot of world travel happening right here at my desk. So it's just nice to talk to somebody who's in the local Houston area. I got to get in touch with Jason. We got to set up some coffee now that we're in the new year and enjoy some bro time together. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that interview. The great thing, so right now, one of the things I like about Jason is one of his titles is Goal Crusher, right? And right now we're in that period where we're setting up goals for ourselves. I've been reading Peter Diamandis' book, Bold, and there is a whole section in there about, setting goals and sort of the right way to do it. If you haven't read that yet, by the way, it's remarkable. If you're at all like me, you like to study people and study geniuses, he profiles several in that book. He's got some case studies at the end of the book or midway through the book. I'm not entirely sure. I'm listening to it on audio right now. It's actually so good that I ordered the print version so that I could have it as a handy sort of flip-through reference. So you should definitely check that book out. And the book Abundance, The Future is Better Than You Think, which is also by Diamandis, and it's similar. Same sort of tone. But definitely check those out. You'll dig that. So all that said, here we are in the new year. I hope you have some plans, and I hope that you're committed to them. And I'm happy to talk to you about those. If you need just someone to run some ideas by, why don't you give me a call? You can call me at 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. I would love to hear what some of your plans are. And if you don't mind, I'd play them on the air. Leave me a voicemail there and then ask me any questions. I have talked to so many experts about so many different topics. I feel like I could probably address just about anything. And if I don't know what to say, I bet I can go find somebody who does. So why don't you give me a call? 281-809-WORD, 281-809-9673. You can also reach me online at wordslingerpodcast.com, where you can leave me a voicemail, actually, from there's a voicemail tab on the right-hand side of the screen that uses SpeakPipe. You can do that from your computer or your phone, doesn't matter. Your tablet. I just got a new iPad Air 2, by the way. So, Merry Christmas to me. So, among other things, other gadgets. that's an aside. You can also send me an email from that site and ask me anything you like, and I will answer in one way or another. If I can't answer, I'll find someone who can. So there we are. So I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Jeff Goins on Christmas Day. I hope you have an equally wonderful New Year. Just the holiday itself, but also just ahead. I just really wish the best for you. I pray for everyone who listens to this show. I hope you're having, a blessed life. I hope you're getting the things that you're fighting for, that you're, not just dreaming about, but that you're actually, planning for and working for. I think that that's the key, is to put passion and work together. So hope all that's working out for you. Go out there, set your own goals to crush. Definitely pick up Jason Arcemont's books, The Brand Map and Your Smiling Mountain. They're small, they're easy, quick reads. You'll get a lot of information out of them. They're totally worth it. And also check out Jason's website, jasonarcemont.com. You'll find all those links in the show notes. Happy New Year to you. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next week.
Word Slinger.